snap, design quarterback run. He's wide open, 10 to the 5, 2, 1. He's in. Touchdown, Jake Curry.
We are Southern Illinois.
Goes back middle of the field, Hiltz to Davis, 10, cuts up at the 5. He's near the 2, staying on his feet. 1, reaches for the end zone. He's in. Touchdown, Vincent Davis.
It's time for SalukI football. Now, here is the voice of the SalukIs, Luke Martin.
Welcome inside the Steve Wells studio for your first SalukI radio football podcast of the year with the coach Pat Poore. I am Luke Martin. Mike Trude's on vacation. As soon as we come to the studio, Coach Poore, he's just like, I need to take some time off.
You know, start elevating, start kind of taking advantage of that.
Yes, you guys start taking advantage of that. But, man, it's football time, Coach Poore. Just watch when you finally, it's here. It's game week, game day. We're recording this midweek on Wednesday. A lot of that preparation now is really already in. You're still preparing as you go throughout the week, but, man, it's like, all right, here we go. First time of the year. Let's roll and let's see what we got.
Yeah, that old saying, the hay's in the barn, isn't quite apropos right now. You still got a couple days and you're still checking boxes and going back through and really just trying to get your team, your players, like whatever role they have, like super confident that like, hey, we've been through this, we've done it twice, we've seen it on film and really going into that first game with a lot of confidence. I mean, that's the biggest thing you're doing. You can't chase ghosts, what if this happens? You really just, your nuts and bolts, all those boxes you've been game planning and doing that type of stuff with is really what you're trying to just get knocked down and, go into the game and not have to think about much and just react and play.
So much goes into each and every game throughout the year. That first game, as you mentioned, you don't want to necessarily chase ghosts. So what you mean by that is just, hey, go down rabbit holes, kind of get off point of task, keep the main thing. The main thing is kind of always the main thing, is always kind of the most important thing to talk about. How do you do that as a coach to just make sure that you guys stay on task? Because there's a reason why there's a whole staff of you guys.
Yeah, a lot of it's just that message that you've been saying, since the end of last season, and not just from Nick, but every coach, you're talking the same language, and guys like us, we're the ones that bring it up, hey, what about the game, and especially a game like this, where, the guarantee type games where it's like, yeah, there is some pressure. You want, you should do what you're supposed to do, so to speak. And on the other side of it, it's like, do you approach that game as a true David and Goliath deal? We're going to do everything we can to, pull an upset and win and that type of stuff. And a lot of times it just comes back down to just playing clean, playing good football. Stuff's going to happen. I mean, that's why it's the greatest game ever invented, yeah. Because it's so unpredictable, and you're really just trying to send that message that, hey, it's another football game, and every snap's important, and you want to execute, do your job the best that you possibly can each snap.
It's the first time since 2014 that Southern will open up against a non-D1, but it was very common under Coach Kill and his era, which of course you were a part of. What were the biggest things that you did just get out of those games? Yes, even though you were heavy favorites, and Southern will be a heavy favorite on Saturday, but still it's important just, hey, have this game, you get out there, you get under the lights, and have that first time out there on the field as a group, as a unit.
Yeah, Coach's philosophy with those a lot of times was the ability to learn how to win and build confidence in what type of team you actually had, because we were on the other side of it too. We always did have a play up game, and interestingly, those got tough to get because we got good, and people were like, "You don't want to play that game against Southern." Yeah. At some point,
yes.
Year 3, 4, 5 in there, thinking about going and playing Indiana. That game scared a lot of people off from playing us, but again, a lot of that was truly to for success. the opportunity to play a lot of people. You're building a program, getting a lot of guys reps, in positive reps, in a winning fashion.
One of the areas I brought up with Coach Hill on the coaches show earlier this week on Inside SalukI Athletics was there was a year, 1987 to be exact, where Southern was preseason ranked. They're preseason ranked this year, number 20. They were preseason ranked number 15 that year. They opened up against Delta State. Delta State came in and won that game. Just kind of goes to show you, Coach Poor, that I know a lot of fans, and I get it, right? And you're on the media side now with us being a part of our radio broadcast team. People will get, right, that's just it's coach speak. Treat every game the same. Like, you got to have respect for your opponent, blah, blah. It really does come down. It's true. And if you don't take any opponent seriously, as Coach Hill told his team this week, the football gods have a way of it coming back around at some point in time.
Yeah, and if you look back in history, most of the time when that's happened, someone's gotten upset early, it was to their own doing. They didn't do a good enough job talking, practicing ball security, or certain situations. And there's been times too in some of those type of games where somebody's done a great job of coaching. Came out and showed an opponent something completely different, and that's hard to adjust. To if you're not prepared for it, but. And in the end result thing, you called it coach speak, but that's truly what you're trying to do. Is just you're trying to play that week's game, and like I said, take care of all the things that you can possibly think of that could come up in a game. Less chasing all those ghosts. It's like, hey, it may happen, but at least we've talked about it. We've walked through that situation, and a lot of times that gets to even injury sometimes. K-State game, they lose the tailback on the first punt return, and that had to be a huge adjustment. Because you got a player. It's like when DJ went down.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it throws you into a spin of like, have we talked to you? Do we have to play a little bit different? Do we have to do some things? More catered to, whoever that backup player is.
When you think of a guy like DJ, and since you brought him up, you spent so much time coaching quarterbacks and being around quarterbacks. When you've watched him in camp this year, what stands out to you as a guy who coached that position, who's been around a lot of good ones in your time?
I think with DJ, a thing I've noticed is just like a more consistent every snap, like his ball has been really tight. Just like today's practice, he didn't throw one bad ball. And then, you allude to the backup quarterback. To me, that was always the toughest job in the world, because you had to be just as ready as the starter, and yet a lot of times when you do get that opportunity, it's a rough opportunity, kind of like last year, Curry got thrown into the fire, whoo, bam, and but they do a great job. Nick, Ryan, that's that film work, meeting preparation, and as a backup, that's the biggest part of it. You mentally have to be like over the top, because those are your reps. They're visual reps, they're talk communicative reps. They're not necessarily the actual physical rep in practice.
When you flip it over defensively, there are obviously some guys that are making their way back. Andrew Boehm one, Colin Bohannick another. Bohawk, as we like to call him within the program, he no doubt is known within our fan base. Andrew Boehm maybe not as much. I know you've spent a lot of time out at practice watching him, but also when you get opportunity to maybe see him on film and you talk to the other coaches, like he's voted a team captain. That alone says a lot about his character on the team. But, man, they're really excited for Andrew Boehm to get out there and play.
Yeah, and you play the way you practice, and you see a consistency in the way he practices. And, like I said, and a lot of times it's little things you notice with guys like that, just how they are around the other players in their position group, and, how they are in team sessions, as far as just reacting to how other people are doing, whether that's making a good play or making a mistake. And, you know, those guys, you know, as team captains, they kind of assume that same role as the quarterback. You know, they're the person that speaks to everybody else in terms of, you know, how do you motivate that guy? How do you correct that guy? Because you are, so to speak, a coach on the field at that point.
We're going to have Coach Norwell coming on here on the program in just a minute, and it's going to be great to catch up with him and learn more about his program and his background. He was a really good player at Illinois in the mid-2000s for Coach Ron Zook, and was a big reason why that program started to flip it right when you guys were making your way, of course, up through Southern and ultimately Northern Illinois. But when you've been at a place for 17 years, which he's going into his 17th season, a part of the program, he's been the head coach for the program since 2022. When you spent that much time in a place and you got that, whatever you want to call it, right, blood equity, you know that place means a lot to somebody. And I know when we talk to him here in just a few minutes, I think that's going to come through very, very easily.
Yeah, and that, I mean, ton of respect for guys that do that, because you just don't see that in college football anymore. I mean, you know, that's went from you spend 10 years at a place, that was a long time. Now it's like they talk about 5, 6. And, you know, just the investment that he's made in that school and in that program. And you're seeing that program develop too, you know, moving up to Division II. And you know, he's got like people from the program coaching with him now. That all points to you're doing it the right way, and obviously it's important to him, you know, because his thumbprint is all over that program.
I know we'll hear from him, but also, and you will ask him about it because you've been there before. You've been a part of programs who have had to make that transition. It's actually been, I don't know if it's fun for him, but Coach Nagy from the basketball side, he understands what it's like to go from a lower level and then ultimately up a level. In his case, the Division I, Coach Norwell's case in Division II. Take us through of what some of those challenges really are that he's going through that are maybe different from a Division III to Division II level.
Yeah, a lot of it is just the vision that he has for what he wants that program to be. And, you know, a lot of that's playing a game like this against us. You know, what does that do for your program? And, you know, just the league that they're affiliated with, you know, is a historically good college football conference with Tiffin and Findlay and Ashland and those schools in it. And, you know, a lot, I think, goes back to, again, him being able to align people with him that have the same vision and the same commitment to get to that end point of, here's what I want this program to be. Much like when Nick, you know, hey, we want to be a top 10 FCS program. And it's a hard job, you know, and even more so now with, you know, some of the changes in transfer and portal and that type of stuff. But, yeah, just tons of respect for Coach for just that commitment to be there, see it through, and you know, make it be what his vision is.
It's an honor to get back in the football season, have this guy join us. He's the head coach of the Thomas More Saints, 17-plus years being part of the Thomas More program, and he knows what it's like to play college football here in the state of Illinois. It's none other than Chris Norwell, who joins us as our first guest this year. Coach, we welcome you. We can't wait to see you here this weekend in Carbondale. I'm sure you're just like all of us, right? You and your team, you're glad to get through training camp, and now let's play some football. Let's go up against somebody else.
And no doubt about it. You know, first off, I want to thank you guys for having me on to share a little bit of knowledge about our program here at Thomas More, and just really kind of talk some football. So, you know, once again, thank you guys.
Oh, no problem. It's great to have you, Coach. And as you know, Coach Poore and I, we were leading into your interview of, look, you're not unfamiliar, obviously, to the state of Illinois. You were an outstanding player back. Got to play at Illinois, was really a part of that program when it started the turnaround right before it went to the Rose Bowl. What are kind of your favorite memories when you think back to your college career in Champaign and some of those memories that stand out for you?
Obviously, you talk about those memories. It's all about the people, right? I still talk to my college teammates. The majority of them are, Illinois residents. So, obviously that's number one. But, kind of my career at the University of Illinois, I came in 2003. I got sold the dream to play tight end up there. Okay, they found out right away I couldn't catch a football, so I got moved down to the O line, and then I ended up switching another time to the defensive line. So that's something where I had a lot of transition, during my playing days, at University of Illinois. But from there we were kind of in that, that transition phase of, in and out, Coach Turner's kind of career at University of Illinois, and then Ron Zook came in for 3 years. But those early days, it was a grind. No, we didn't get a lot of results in the win and losses column. And but guess what? Senior year, we really turned it around. Ended up going 9-3. Had an opportunity to go out and play in the 2008 Rose Bowl against USC. That was a great time to kind of represent the state of Illinois on that national stage. And, that's something I'm very proud of, just staying the course and getting better and better. That's something, looking back at our college days, it wasn't easy, but, as a class, we had a fairly large class that senior year in 2007. It was great to kind of finish it out the right way, as a player. But, there's no doubt I had a great time during my 4.5 years in Champaign. Great place to be, and really good football. That's something that really opened my eyes about the state of Illinois. Got some really competitive football all throughout the state, which is awesome. So, it was kind of awesome going back, get a chance to be in Illinois again, but, play a college game there, which is going to be unique. It's going to be my first time in the state of Illinois playing a college game as a coach.
Coach,
So,
do you feel like your experience there, changing positions and going through, the development stages of that program, did that kind of lead you into coaching? Did you know that that's kind of what you wanted to do at that point?
You know what? No, not at all. When I was going through college, I was thinking about the NFL, right?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. And for me, I was picked up as an undrafted free agent, got cut by the New England Patriots, got back home to Cincinnati, Ohio, got a call from the Minnesota Vikings the very next day. I ended up doing the 4 preseason games up there, got cut again, realized I couldn't play the game. What's the next best thing? I love football, right? I'm from a large family. I'm one of 7 kids. I love that team element, the family atmosphere. If I can't play it, let's try out coaching. And, for me, luckily I knew somebody that was over here coaching back in 2009 at Thomas More, and they had an opening for a defensive line coach. And I interviewed in July, got the position, made a big whopping $5,000 year one in 2009. And, at that time, Thomas More, we were a Division III program, and we had some really good teams, a really great run, talking about winning conference championships at the D3 level. But after that first year coaching, being around the guys that were on staff here, the guy that hired me, Jim Hilbert, back in 2009, he's now the head coach up at Baldwin-Wallace University up there outside of Cleveland. Being around the players on the team, because you hear, D3, they're out there for the love of the game, right? They're out there grinding it, all right, doing everything that they can just to create those memories and be the best possible player that they can be. But, after that year, I knew I wanted to coach. So, kind of my attitude is always kind of, hey, be where your 2 feet are, right? Yeah. Be in the moment. And, I've been very fortunate to be here, for 17 years, kind of doing a little bit more and more each year. And, I had the opportunity to lead Thomas More now, into our Division II future, because we've had some transition now, going from Division III. Back in 2019, we actually transitioned into NAIA level, which is kind of an intro to scholarship level football. And then starting in 2023, we actually made the transition back to the NCAA, but as a Division II member. And that's something the university just got final word in July that we are now full members of NCAA Division II moving forward, which is such a huge opportunity for our university, our location here, being just 10 minutes south of downtown Cincinnati. So, that's something that I take a lot of pride in, leading this program, this university forward on the football field, but as D2 members.
Yeah, that's you're wearing a whole bunch of hats in those transitions. Again, give you a lot of credit. I've been at those NIA places, Iowa Wesleyans and Fort Hays States, and it's hard to make that move from a head coaching standpoint. Luke and I were talking about it, just your vision, of what you want that program to be, and the steps you're taking towards that is, I was going to ask you why this is a big game for you and your program coming and playing a Southern Illinois.
It's just, like I already said, it's about the people. Okay. I think we have some great people, and, what a great experience for our players, our coaches, all right, to kind of share this stage with Southern Illinois. That's such a, great memory for those guys. No doubt there's going to be a big time challenge, but really, can we control what we can control, as coaches, as players? All right, can we go in there and be a disciplined football team for 60 minutes? There's always those challenges that you want your guys to face, okay? And there's no question that this game, regardless of what happens, man, we want to see our guys be able to compete and really get after it for 60 minutes. That's going to be our biggest goal going in there, and making sure that, our guys get some really great looks. Our communications is really working smoothly to really build upon, our first 2 weeks. We're playing out-of-conference opponents. So we're really building for that week 4 matchup when we start up our conference play in the GMAC.
Coach, to build off of what Coach Poor was just asking you, and look, when you spend as much time, one, being in the Cincinnati area, being from that area, now being at Thomas More for so long, what do you love so much about that place? Like for you, when you've put this much time, just like Coach Hill has spent so many days here in Southern Illinois, it truly is ingrained in his DNA. I'm sure it's the exactly same thing for you. What about Thomas More DNA that you can share with us here in SalukI Nation that just really means a lot to you?
A lot of shared experiences, right? I walked the same kind of roads that these guys on our team have. So, you have a lot of shared experiences there. But, at the end of the day, here in Northern Kentucky, Southwest Ohio, football is important. High school football matters, in this region. So you get guys, you get players that are committed to the game, their self-development. And, here at, talk about our university, it matches what we do. Playing football here at Thomas More is not just going to be athletic football experience. There's going to be an academic side to it, man. We've got some really great stats that really show, what our graduates do, when they start their careers. They do a great job earning, where I can guarantee it's going to be a full rounded experience when it comes to being a football player, being a student, and socially here at Thomas More, which, got me bought into this process to really help our players out.
What has been the biggest challenge when you make a transition? As Coach Poor says, hey, he can feel, he feels for you, and being the head coach in those roles of jumping from the Division III to Division II, for us and for your fans even that listen, what has maybe been the biggest differences other than just, you're obviously jumping up a division level to D2?
I think it's everywhere, to be honest. Number one, roster building, right? You got to get a Division II caliber roster, okay, depth-wise. That's such a big deal. Just making sure, during the course of the football season, a lot of stuff can go on, right? Changes are going to be guaranteed, and you just got to make sure that you can build that depth within your roster, right? Where guys are competing within every position, all sides of the ball, and stuff does happen. Guys got to step up and really make the most out of their opportunities. You talk about all the stuff that NCAA wants you to track, as a coach. That falls on the head coach at a D2 level. So, that's what they go from NAIA to Division II. There's a lot more stuff that you got to keep track of, making sure you're following the right processes and all that good stuff. And then, lastly, really making sure that, competitively, hey, you're going to be in there with your conference peers, making sure the resources are available, that type of stuff. It's just a commitment to athletic excellence that needs to take a step up with that change. Obviously, I think the coaching, the different style of player, they're all there when you make that change. And, that's the one thing, being a part of small college football, my whole career, you definitely see that. But yeah, the quality of coaches and players have definitely increased, no question.
Quality-wise, talking about your roster coming out of camp, Coach,
Yeah.
Is there a position group? Is there a piece offensively, defensively that you feel really good about? I know your linebacker crew, is probably your most experienced on defense, and then you got to feel good about having your quarterback come back.
Yeah, for us, I think we feel good, kind of at every position, to be honest with you. We're going to have some new faces out there, but at the same time, those are guys that have seen an experience, but at a different school. Okay, so we do have some new faces that do have experience, but like you said, our linebacking core, we feel really good about our 2D. We've got some very talented guys, team guys. That can really communicate and get the defense all lined up, all right, and really execute what we need to. Offensively, we're going to have a new kind of wide receiver room, going into week one, which, I'm looking forward to seeing that group respond and see what type of, group that's going to show up on Saturday. Obviously, quarterback's always a big position. We feel really confident about our two guys that played last year. And what they can do, and we're really looking forward to seeing, how they progress their game when it's live and the lights are on, right? But yeah, overall, this is a big game just to kind of see where we are too. Like, hey, this is going to be our first real live action. Obviously, stuff that we do inter squad, scrimmage wise, all that stuff. It's now this Saturday. This is kind of lights are on. We're going to showcase, who's going to be ready, who's not. So. That's part of coaching and seeing these players, step up to that challenge.
When you think of your program and how you want to play, Coach Norwell, what are your biggest areas where you go, hey, this is a non-negotiable if you want to be a Thomas More Saint? What are the things that you hope that SalukI Nation will see this weekend as, man, that's clear as day, that's just really important within the Thomas More football program?
And no doubt, the first thing is just, how we play, our effort, right? Hey, for us to have any success for any team that we're playing, we got to play with a tremendous amount of effort, right? We want to be a tough football team, both mentally and physically, and hey, we want to be disciplined, right? We don't want to have pre-snap penalties, all that stuff that we can control. We're kind of that blue collar approach type of program. And, that's something where, that's preached daily to our team. That's where we're going to have to really excel. And, hopefully, our guys put on a great show where, they're going to be out there playing for 60 minutes with great effort and just getting after it, having fun.
That's a big piece of it, and I was going to ask you too. You've got continuity in your staff. I noticed your defensive coordinator had been with you for a long time. You kind of being a defensive guy, you got to feel really good about having that guy on your staff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Coach Zank, he's been with me since 2014. So I was a longtime defensive coordinator, and when I was promoted to be the head coach, lead our program, that was a really easy decision to get Coach Zank involved a little bit more heavily defensive side of the ball. And guess what? He took that opportunity and ran with it. He's done some great stuff. Yeah. He's a defensive backs guy, so he's really done some great stuff talking about our coverage game, really being disciplined in what we're doing and really expanding what we've done in the past, which is great. That's the one thing that you learn right away. You got to surround yourself with smart people, people that are going to buy into the vision of the program and do stuff, the right way. And that was a great hire offensively. We got some new faces on the offensive staff, but so far those guys have been grinding it out. They've been working. Their chemistry as a staff has been excellent to see. Their connection with their kids has been awesome as well. And so, as a head coach, that's what you're looking for, right? you want to see that connectivity amongst your coaches and your players, because at the end of the day, why I love small college football, you're around your kids all the time, right?
Yep.
Hey, we're in the weight room with our guys in the winter, okay, over the summertime. We're always around our guys. It's not just going to be during fall camp, spring ball. So you always have that connection with your kids, which is highly valuable, especially for a place like Thomas More.
Coach, there's no question one thing outside of just these two teams playing each other will have in common, that they played a game against one another. Both these teams will know what it's going to be like being on the road. Your group started off, your first 4 games are all on the road. You're going to see Dayton right after you come here to Carbondale, and then you'll get right in the GMAC play with your first 2 games on the road at Northwood and at Findlay. I know that is way out in front, and you are not even focused at that at this point, but just in terms of you look at your team to know, hey, you're going to be spending even more time around them here on the road to start off the month of a season, of how that can really be a good team-building way of, even though it's tough and adding up those miles and traveling, your guys are really going to know whether they like each other or not early on in a season.
Hey, no question about that. And that's why we always talk about team chemistry, all that stuff. To be good at that, you got to spend time around each other, right? You got to work at it, all right? And we're forced to do that, early on in the year. But, away games, as a player, I loved away games. As a coach, I still like them. All right. How we travel by bus. Okay. Yeah, 7, that could make for a long year, but it's fun to get out there, go see some different venues, and kind of have your back against the wall too. That's a good feeling to have. At least I enjoy it as a coach, and really getting our players to embrace that mindset, right? Hey, so what? Okay, we're on the road. All right, put the ball down anywhere. We'll play, right? Getting them to develop that mindset is huge. And so far at camp, our guys, they're excited about what we're doing with our out of conference schedule. Obviously conference play, having 2 on the road, that's stuff that I can't control. That comes from the conference office. But we played 7 home games last year, so. It's just that vice versa this year. So I think we'll be all right with that. But once again, it does get our guys around each other, which definitely will be a good thing.
Hey, we know your time is limited, Coach Norwell, but before we let you go, the next time the SalukIs will be at home is when they'll host Indiana State. They're led by Kurt Mallory, who's a good friend of mine. You know Coach Mal well because he was at Illinois when you were at Illinois. On our way out, can you give me anything good on Coach Mal that I can have to use for any sort of ammunition when we get him on the podcast here in about a month?
You're putting me on the spot right now, but hey, Coach Mal, he's a great guy. I actually had the opportunity. I had his brother, all right, as a defensive coordinator my first year playing defense, okay, and then Kurt came in after his brother. So I had 2 Mallorys as defensive coordinators during my time at University of Illinois. But great family, a man of just great character. I still stay in touch with Coach Mallory now. I shoot him texts every once in a while. I'll ask him some questions. Talk about just his knowledge of the game. He's a very smart guy and great coach. So, that's awesome.
No doubt, a tremendous man. I know you're getting connected with Coach Hill too, and we're very lucky to work with another tremendous guy here in Carbondale. Coach Norwell, we can't wait to see you this weekend here in Carbondale. Safe travels, but most importantly, we appreciate you carving out some time to talk to us, and we look forward to welcoming Thomas More here this weekend to Carbondale.
Hey, thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Big thanks to Coach Norwell for taking time to join us here with your SalukI Radio preview for this weekend for the Thomas More Saints. Coach, before we really just close it out here for week 1 of this podcast, this weekend will be special for college football fans for many reasons. One, because it's week 1, and, of course, the majority of the teams are back playing. But College Game Day will have Lee Corso's final College Game Day. Of course, Coach Corso is someone who's been so synonymous in college football, but you actually have a special tie with Coach Corso through your coaching stops.
Yeah, it was crazy because, Corso was just starting to take off and be that guy, on game day, and we get the Northern Illinois job, and, first day walk in the coach's locker room, and I got Lee Corso's locker at Northern Illinois in the old stadium. So always kind of put that one in my back pocket. Thought it was kind of cool.
It was so awesome, and still is awesome. It's, you still got another Saturday, but for me, I can remember going and watching College Game Day in person at Purdue, which was the first time and still the only time they've ever been to West Lafayette. Drew Brees actually pointed to it in a little tribute video to Coach Corso. I mean, people just went nuts. And, of course, his background being a former coach at IU, seeing him put on Purdue Pete's head was really special. But, man, it was appointment television each and every week. And, if you haven't seen it, it is a phenomenal tribute video that ESPN did for him. Yeah. And for me, what really got me watching it was his family. And, when they really brought up, him bowing through his stroke, coming back, I mean, if that doesn't tug on your heartstrings and really showcase who he is, I don't know what will.
Yeah, and just that coaching work ethic carried over into his broadcasting, you saw him on that video, learning how to speak and say things. And I thought the cool thing was just it went back to, a lot of the coaches, it's all about relationships.
Absolutely.
And just how people talked about how he treated them and helped them. And, it wasn't all about Lee Corso, which I thought that was a really neat part of it. That, and the first thing that hit me when I watched that was how we would be on the road playing. You'd go to pregame breakfast, and it was like you couldn't wait to get on the elevator, get back up to your room, and catch 15 minutes of game day. As nervous as you were getting ready for a game, it was kind of like a nice little break. It was you got that in as part of your day.
Last thing before we officially wrap up and give just final thoughts on the game on Saturday. Talked about it with Coach Hill as well earlier this week. These helmets that the Salukis will wear this weekend, they're going to have a special sticker on it, and it's going to say SL, and that's for Sharon Lipe. Again, Sharon was someone that I didn't get to know as well as obviously you have, Coach Poore, and so many in the program. I know it means a lot to so many people that the football program is honoring Sharon in that way. For you, just when you see it, when you know that, what words even just come to your mind? Because I know there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and I thought Mike Reese put it very poignantly, that was she was almost like an assistant head coach. She knew so much about everything that was going on and was able to relate that to you, whether you were an assistant position coach, you were Coach Kill, you were, the ops person, she had her fingers all over the whole program, and just did it with a kind of a mom-like style. I mean, it was even like when we first came here, we're living over in the Gaslight Apartments, and we don't know where to shop, anything, where to live, all that. And I mean, she would point you in the right direction. It's like, no, I don't know if you want to live over there. Or, hey, I don't know if you want to shop there. I don't know if you want to eat there. And was just one of those people that was just you look forward to seeing every day. And late at night, and like I said, she was just really special. And then just the connection with Roger being involved too. I mean, talk about a SalukI power couple. I mean, they were the ultimate, and really, really awesome that we were able to do the memorial deal here a couple Saturdays ago, and just you could tell just by the turnout at that. There were players, there were boosters, there were ex-coaches, it really pointed to what impact she had on the program.
And look, and this is not to disparage any other celebrations of life, but hers was a true celebration.
Yeah,
I mean, it no doubt, there are a lot of moving stories. I mean, and even, again, for someone like me that didn't necessarily know Sharon very well, there are a lot of moving stories that still made me emotional. But, it was a good, whether you want to call it balance, but it was a celebration of life of Sharon Lipe, and it wasn't all, sadness. There were no doubt there were tears shed, but it really was man, I think it embodied everything that everyone has talked about with Sharon.
Yeah, and it was, and it hit me that day. It was twofold. One, my relationship as a coach on those staffs, and then Taylor actually, when we were gone, working for Sharon, and kind of learning the business, and again, it was another one of those kind of mother, moments where it's like I knew my kids were in good shape being down here while we were at Northern Illinois because Sharon would take care of them.
Yeah, no question about it. Okay, let's end it on football note. What is maybe the biggest thing that you're just most looking forward to on Saturday from a SalukI perspective to get this season going?
I see a big thing is just being able to come out and playing with a lot of confidence and not necessarily, just being who we think we can be, whether that's coming out playing fast, whether that's coming out and tackling well, just all the things that you run through that list of, hey, we need to do this, 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 and this. But, and Nick calls it playing clean. And I really do think that that's what I'm really excited about to see is if we can just come back from all the things that happened last year and have forgot about it and just like, hey, that's who the SalukIs are going to be this year. And, man, they're sharp and they're fast and they're executing, and guys that are supposed to be players and contributing are contributing early. It's just you want to see that. We talk about it every week. You want to see that fast start, and a lot of times it doesn't happen because it's first game and all that. But I really sense that they have that confidence that's like they know who they can be. It's just a matter of quit thinking about it and like, hey, let's, I know they're ready.
No doubt.
Hey, it's time to put the rubber to the road and hey, let's see what we got.
We hope you join us this weekend on Saturday. Kickoff will be at 6 o'clock at SalukI Stadium. Our coverage will begin at 5 o'clock on SalukI Radio. Big thanks to Coach Norwell for taking time to join us this week on the podcast. We look forward to many more conversations throughout the year. So for the Coach Pat Poor, I am Luke Martin. We will talk to you this weekend, SalukI Nation. It's finally football game day this weekend for the Dogs. Go Dogs!
This has been SalukI Royalty, the official podcast for SalukI Athletics. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review however you listen. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the SalukI Sports Network.